Let's play out a scenario where you are either a lawyer or an investor and you're consulting with a founder of a startup who really wants to form an organization and doesn't know, should I keep it as a sole proprietorship? Should I make it a LLC or an S corporation? Everyone has to have that question and go through this process. This is called GenSpark, which basically lets me, ask my question of, let's see about an S Corp. How would it work? And it basically says, I'll help you do that. And it went slide by slide to give me the benefits of S Corp, eligibility, formation, tax advantages, considerations of how to operate with it, and comparisons to other ownership structures. Say this meeting is happening, I need to get good information across. I don't have a lot of time to prepare. And here I've got a fairly good step-by-step. You need to have a citizen involved, and you're going to create stock, and you're going to have stockholders, and you're going to have requirements to report your activities for those stockholders. And because of that, the government needs to be involved as well. In this case, I'm just using a screen share with the live camera in CueCam, and then I'm using my iPad video pencil to do the asides back and forth, and that's all I'm doing. And then I'm just scrolling through a web page. So here are the steps to form things. You need to get a taxpayer identification number and send out the correct forms, and you need to maintain compliance, and that ends up being the overhead that many times the IRS might say, okay, we're going to let you be a corporation because you've gone through the formation, you've got your number, you've filed your declarations, and they're saying, okay, we're going to tax you as a corporation, but you're going to have to report to us regularly. Now, the tax advantages are that the money that comes into the organization doesn't go into your personal account. You basically can have up to 100 shareholders, and they all participate in the entity you've created. And so just the profit that you give yourself plus the compensation that you give yourself, that's your income. And the corporation is taxed separately. Here's a tax savings example. As an S corporation, you take a salary and you distribute your profits to your other investors or reinvest it. And so you're able to save a significant amount of that salary as less tax. Whereas if you took all that as income or profit, as a sole proprietor, you'd have to pay tax on the entire amount. And that's a real driver here, is just paying those taxes. And you must pay yourself reasonable compensation. And all of this is sort of like best practices, a little fudgy, but the point is that the requirements to report, the requirements to say who you are, what you're going to do, and to follow through on a time scale is important. And many founders have no idea what their time is going to look like 6 months out, a year out, and the S corporation locks it in. You need to document everything, and you have to have meetings, and you have to have minutes, and you have to keep your corporate and personal finances separate, and you have to document what you've decided to do. And you have to tell people why you're paying people, how you're paying them, and you have to keep a stock ledger and the cap table. Who owns how much of the organization? And if you miss the filing deadlines, or if you don't adhere to the restrictions and you violate these, you can be in trouble. So how does this compare with a LLC, sole proprietorship, and a C corporation? And typically a lot of these are at scale. You're going to be a C corporation if you're going public or whatnot, but the S corporation can be converted to a C, and the point of being able to protect yourself from liability of the LLC and the S corporation are more advantageous that way than a sole proprietorship. And that ends up being the biggest choice that a startup founder has at the beginning. With a sole proprietorship, you really have one owner and that's it. You can't take in investment from other people and have them own stock. So that big issue of if you get a business going and suddenly somebody wants to invest in you, you've got to move from a proprietorship, which is probably the right way to start, but going into an LLC or an S corporation is the big choice. And you're not alone. Every founder has to go through this. It's a good practice to understand what these restrictions are and what the expectations are and the requirements going forward, because the disciplines that you develop early will carry you in good stead as you grow and as you make yourself a vessel for others to participate